So the next question says that a figure is reflected across the line y equals 4, and then after that its reflection is reflected across the line y equals 7. Write both reflections or the composite of the two reflections as a single transformation. Hint, sketch a figure. Okay, so this is the first question we've had that is sort of a free-form question. They're not telling us what figure to use. They're just saying a figure, whatever that is reflected across the line y equals 4 and then again reflected across the line y equals 7. And we've got to write out or calculate or figure out what the composite or the composition of these two reflections is as a single transformation. Well, we've seen this enough times to know that the transformation is going to be a translation. Okay, so the two reflections are going to equal to some kind of a translation, but which translation precisely will it be? So the way to go about finding that out, at least initially, would be to draw a sketch. Now, what figure should we use? I'm going to give you a little hint here. Always try to make life as simple as you can. Okay, so try to come up with the simplest possible figure, since we're told that this should work for any figure. So the simplest figure that I could come up with would be a point. There's really nothing simpler than a single point. So let's just do this with a point. And apparently it's not going to matter where we start, where we place our initial point. So let's go ahead and let's place our initial point at the origin. Okay, and then let's draw the line y equals 4, which we've drawn similar lines for a bunch of times already, so let's go ahead and we know what to do. Okay, so this is a line y equals 4, and it is intersecting the y-axis at 4, and it is parallel to the x-axis. Okay, good. And let us go ahead and reflect this point at the origin over the line y equals 4. Well, it is 1, 2, 3, 4 below it, so the reflection is going to end up 1, 2, 3, 4 above it. Okay, so this, let's say we label our initial point A. This is going to be A prime. And now we've got to take A prime, and we've got to reflect it across the line y equals 7. So where is the line y equals 7? Well, the line y equals 7 is where we have y equals 7 on the x-axis, which would be there. And let's go ahead and draw a line parallel to the x-axis through the point on the y-axis that's equal to 7. That would give us this line. Okay, so this line is y equals 7. And let's go ahead and let's now reflect A prime over y equals 7. Well, A prime is 1 above y equals 7, so it's going to end up reflecting it to the point 1 below y equals 7. And this is our final point, A prime prime. So A prime prime is 0, 6. And our initial point was at the origin 0, 0. So what translation was this? We started from A, and to get to A double prime, we had to go up the y-axis 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So our translation is translation. We didn't move anything in the x direction, and we moved 6 in the y direction. So that is our translation. To go from A to A double prime, we used a translation of 0, 6 on A. Okay. Now you might ask, and it would be reasonable to ask, what happened if we were to start with a different point? Would we still get the same translation, 6 in the vertical direction? Well, let's go ahead and let's pick some other point to start with and see what we end up with. Let's say we started with the point here, let's say it was 2, 2. Okay, let's say we started with that point. Let's call this point B. And now let's go ahead and let's reflect that point over the first line y equals 4. Well, this point is 2 below the y-axis, so the reflection is going to be 2 points above, it's 2 points below y equals 4, so the reflection is going to be 2 points above y equals 4. So we go 1, 2, and we go 1, 2. So this becomes B prime. Okay, that's B prime. And now we finally, to do the last reflection, we've got to reflect it over y equals 7. Well, B prime is 1 unit below y equals 7, so reflection of B prime to B double prime would now be 1 unit above y equals 7. So what is the final coordinates of B double prime? Well, it's 1, 2, and then how far up in the y-axis it is? Well, I think we can see it's 8 up. So let's go ahead, and this would be 0, 8. Well, we started with, 2, 8. Whoops, my mistake there. Okay. So 2, 8, because we're 2 on the x-axis. We started at 2, 2. This looks a little messy, but let me put 2, 8 over here. We started at 2, 2, and we ended up at 2, 8. So what translation was that? The same, right? We went up 6 units in the y direction. The y coordinate was originally 2, and it became 8. So we had to add 6 to that, or move up 6 in the y direction. And the x of 2 stayed at an x of 2. It turns out that no matter what point you pick to start out with, the two reflections, the composition of the two reflections will always equal this transformation. Very interesting fact.